Good afternoon. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Today we are going to be talking about New Year's commitments, obviously.
Can you believe we're at the end of the year? We're at the end of the year already.
I know. I can't believe it. Seems like just yesterday I was promising I'd go to the gym every day.
How does it feel to have a whole year under your belt of doing this show?
We've been doing the show, I think, a little bit longer, but we changed the name and changed our idea and everything about it. So when we made the move over here. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot of new things that are going to come this year for this next show. And I'm committed to making every show special and showing up first of all. And I know I missed last week, so I wanted to say thank you to Fred for covering for me. I was afraid you're going to be out here rambling by yourself, and I watched the show later, and I thought, Fred, and you did an awesome job.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And you're always missed. I think you bring such freshness, and you're always keeping me on my toes. A lot of times I think that when I speak, I don't always know if I'm landing the message that I want to land. And there's something about the way that you reword it or the way that you re-say it, or even some of the questions you ask me really helps me speak at a way that they can resonate with them. So I think you add such amazing value to the show, and I appreciate you. And I appreciate your commitment. So
thank you. And first I want to talk about the commitments, but also later I want to talk about why we break them, or what the trouble is, at least for me, because I know that I could probably bring a little bit of insight. And if you can't admit that, you're not as committed as you thought you were, then maybe we can open that up later.
Yeah, I think that, and one of the reasons why I chose to have the show called New Year's Commitments is because I'm not too fond about the word resolution. If you look up resolution in the dictionary, it means to have a firm decision about doing something or not doing something. And that, kind of follows along the line of the do, have, be principle, which, has more people doing more, better, different, having different results, and then thinking that those results is who they are and changing them. And that's not really the case. We don't want to slowly turn into doing monsters. We want to really try to figure out when I have those kinds of results, what's the experience that I'm looking for? I think that was the biggest breakthrough that I ever had in my life, was realizing that all the goals that I was chasing and all the different visions that I had and things that was looking for to have in my life to attain, I was really underneath that. I was looking for a certain experience. Like, let's take making more money, for example. If you take money as the symbol, or making more money as the symbol, and I asked you, what's the experience underneath that you're looking for, that you're yearning for when it comes to making more money? What experience would you attach or associate to making more money?
Being successful, being a doer, I guess, doing a lot of things to get there.
Okay. For a lot of people, the experience that most people, or the common response that I've heard people say when I talk about making more money is security. They talk about the experience of feeling secure, that they got enough money in the bank. Or they feel the experience they're looking for is freedom. They feel freer. Other people will say power. It gives them a sense of feeling powerful, that they make a certain amount of money or make more money than they did last year. And those are the experiences that which we're looking for when we have these goals, when we have these accomplishments. We're looking really for an experience to validate who we are. And I don't think that we realize that. And so that's why I was, hoping we can have that discussion and really look at people that go out and create an extra $100,000 for 2017, or I finally opened that business that I've been wanting to open up, or I finally got married. Even in marriage, some of us are seeking a marriage to actually have that wedding day where we walk down, but we're all seeking a certain experience when it comes to being married or being in love. What's the experience you're looking for? We very seldom look deep enough and search to find out what that experience is that we're really trying to feel.
Yeah, and I think at least for me, I've never really been a New Year's resolution kind of person. I just kind of live in I'm always looking for a resolution or a commitment, I always have something that I'm working on that I want to put a lot of energy into, whether it's being more humble, being in less judgment, being, whatever it is I'm focusing on. So it's not just at the beginning of the year, but it is a really good excuse for me to change my topic that I want to focus on, or to decide I want to actually focus on it more, whatever that looks like. So I'm not really a New Year's resolution kind of person. So earlier before we started the show, you asked me what my New Year's commitment was going to be, and I've been kind of racking my brain trying to decide, but I finally got it, so I'm going to call myself out. So at the end of the year, at the end of this show next December, I want to be able to say, oh, I did it, or I did as best as I could, or whatever. So for me, my New Year's commitment is going to be to save money better. I don't necessarily need money. I don't necessarily need to make more money or to be rich and successful this year, but I do need to save. I think as a young adult, I'm still living in I had this all my time to be free and spend money and buy nice things, and I'm not really saving any money. I have no future savings in case I lose my car or lose my job or want to buy a house. I don't have any savings. It's almost non-existent. I think I have like $20. So my New Year's commitment is to save money better, and at the end of the year, be able to either have that money in my bank account or have an investment that I saved up for.
So let's talk a little bit about that so that I can help support you in having that be actual tangible result, so that 5 months from now, 8 months from now, 12 months from now, we can look back and you can see all the pivotal moments where you're actually hitting those marks. Does that sound good? Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. In what way of being do you have to access within yourself to shift into that way of being so that you end up saving more money? Because I don't want you to focus on the task or the doingness of saving more money, because if you rely on the doingness, as soon as the next shiny object comes in front of your face, you're right there chasing it. So I need you to focus more on and ask yourself, who do I need to be more to be able to save the money? What way of being would you narrow it down to?
Well, there's a couple words I can think of. I need to be more disciplined, and I'm that person that when I see the next shiny thing, I have to have it or figure out how to get it. And then the other thing is to be more patient. I think a lot of the times I jump into decisions and I don't realize that, I could get this same service somewhere for $10 less, or, so I just do it because I'm impatient. And to me, I value my time a lot. So if I don't really think, to save an extra $10, it's only going to take me 15 minutes to walk at the other end of the mall and find that other store or whatever that looks like. And, but those are the two things that come to my mind, like right away.
Okay. How about thrift? When you think of the word thrift, what do you think of?
Thrift stores.
Like if you say, that person's really thrift, how do you describe that description?
I think, they're really thrifty. They get the same thing, the same quality at a cheaper price.
Okay. So I think of someone that's cautious. They're careful. Like you said, they're patient. Someone that is working on themselves and they're focused more on being patient, being cautious, being present, being observant. Also being in the moment too, because if you're unconscious, or let me ask you this question: would you agree that when you're unconscious and you're reactive, that you're spending more money when you're unconscious and reactive?
Yes.
And then later going, did I really need this?
Yes.
Right? So maybe helping being present in the moment and being a little bit more conscious before you start purchasing could actually help you rationalize or go through a self-aware process where you really negotiate and rationalize with your mind whether you need it or not, and if it's a necessity right there in the present moment before you actually turn over your card. Right?
Right.
So I think that process of how do I develop that process where I can rationalize it and then realize that I really don't need it before I buy it, not a month later, right? So I think you being present and then you being self-aware and kind of checking in with yourself and doing that whole process in the present moment while you're there, I think will help you start to tighten up and be a little bit more thrift, be a little bit more cautious about the choices you're making, and deciding whether something is really valuable and important and it's something that you need. And if it doesn't qualify for something that's really important, really valuable, and something that you really need, then what's going to happen is you're only going to start narrowing down the purchases for those things, and all the other spill off is going to go into a bucket that's going to be stacking up for you, so that when you have now a 6 month or 8 month or a year under your belt, you can look back and you got something there to rely on to be able to go after some of those goals and those dreams that you've been tucked away.
Yeah, and I one of the things I imagine is, I'm not really that patient. So I could tell myself and say that whatever item it is I want, it's going to be there tomorrow. So if I can sleep on it and get over it, then I don't need it. And if I'm still thinking about it the next day or 2 days later, I'll go back and go get it.
Okay, that's awesome.
I tell myself that all the time.
And you don't do it.
No. And as I'm walking out the store, I go, never mind. I'll just get it. And maybe I don't need it, and maybe I didn't actually really like it anyways at the end, but that's never the case. Most of the time I actually don't like it, and my closet is now full of clothes I don't wear. You know
what's amazing is that I never forget this one time someone said to me, and it was regarding a loved one that has passed in someone's life. And I remember someone saying to me that they don't make decisions when they're emotional. And it happened to be at a time when they had lost a loved one. And they were sharing with me that someone else had told them, hey, when you have a loved one that passes, you shouldn't make any big decisions, especially right after, immediately. You should wait 30 days or 90 days, because that's when you're more level-headed, you're thinking clear, you're able to rationalize, pros and cons, and your mindset is centered and you're grounded. When you're emotional, you make decisions that you're not thinking of either consequences, or you're not forward thinking, you're not thinking ahead, you're not able to see a couple of pivot turns down the road. All those senses, they're gone. And I like that, because if we can see ourselves, especially when we're making certain decisions in our life that we need to discipline ourselves, I think it's a great kind of a rule to tell yourself, I should really be more mindful of not making emotional decisions. Ooh, I like that. It's like an impulse. But if we can really narrow that down and allow ourselves to practice being more in the moment and living in the present moment, we can catch ourselves at those times.
Yeah, and I kind of, that's not me, I don't, not that it's not me, it can be, but right now the way, since I haven't been committed to it in the past, I'm the one to just jump on it and do it, even if I'm emotional and I say, oh, I'm upset, so I'm going to go shopping to make myself feel better. Those are the things that I don't really set myself up to win. I don't take only cash. I go with my credit card. So there's different things now that, as you're explaining, especially the emotional part, is to set aside different ways of going about it. So like I said, and the only thing that came to my mind right now was taking cash instead of taking my cards, and saying, okay, you can go spend money, but here's your budget, here's $20 and that's it. And just little things like that are going to help me through, one, the saving money process, and two, those emotional times when I do want to go out and I do want to spend money.
It's funny, as you're talking, I'm thinking about all the people that they ask me questions like, how do you deal with your kids when they are overspending, or, they're getting themselves into debt? Let's say someone's asked, because a lot of times I get people asking me about you guys as my kids, like, how do you deal with your kid? And a lot of times I tell them, to be honest with you, I don't force them to do something like be thrift or not overspend or do it the way that I want them to do it or try to learn the lesson from me. I let them have their own experience so that they can dig their own holes, because that's what life is all about. Like, you filing for bankruptcy 2 or 3 years from now and getting yourself in that kind of predicament, do I want that? Absolutely not. I want you to be able to learn that from either my experience or some of the people around you that you're watching, and hopefully you can have that learning curve. But if you have to go through that process and it actually teaches you now for the rest of your life how to start managing money, then I'm all for that. I'm all for you being in your own process, making your own mistakes, because I trust that you're mindful enough, that you're present enough, that you're able to kind of look at that and then flip a switch and learn from it. I think the greatest part of parenting is allowing your kids to make their mistakes, and then instead of beating them up or pointing out what they're doing, making them bad and wrong, swoop in and put your arm around them, give them a hug, comfort them, nurture them, let them heal a little bit, and then open up a dialogue and have a conversation about it. Help them make sense of what they did, and then let them flip their own switch rather than coming in and trying to, because you got those parents that are hovering around. Well, see, I told you, and they're just, and all they're really doing is kind of just digging at you, but they're not helping you realize something. They're not inspiring you or empowering you to find what the aha moment, what's the takeaway for me in that.
Yeah, when I was just had gotten my first credit card, like 18, 19 years old, I remember I would get the bank statement sent to our house. And I think in whatever scenario, you opened it and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you have $500, $800, whatever dollars on your credit card.
But I was actually the one that helped you get
the credit card. You signed me up for the credit card. But I did have, I had a big balance on it. It had, $800 or something like that. And you gave me like the biggest talking to in front of our whole family. I remember like my grandma was there, my cousins were there, and I was so mad that the next day I unlinked our accounts. And then, so I unlinked my bank account with your guys's, and then, after that, I was like, he thinks I can't have a credit card. Well, watch, I'm going to pay this whole thing out. So I paid it. And then, but ever since then, I kind of was trying to make sure that everything was separate, because I didn't want to have a controlling parent be all telling me that I shouldn't be spending this money or that money when it's my money. And my 19-year-old brain knows how credit works and this and that. So, even though I was really mad at you, I noticed that you don't do that anymore. You don't really get involved in stuff like that, even with my brother, my sisters.
Well, first of all, I can't, because you unlinked it, which is actually a good thing. And I was kind of happy for you. I was kind of excited for you. Like inside, I was kind of like, she unlinked us, right? But inside, I was like, good for you. Like, good for her. Like, it was a statement you were making to me, basically, or your mom or us, to say, hey, I'm a big girl and I don't need you guys hovering over and looking at my stuff. So it was no harm, no foul. It was actually part of me. It was like, okay, I'm kind of excited for her to go and have that experience. And, we sit there and we watch Amazon come in day after day with all your stuff that you're opening up. And I have to surrender all the worries and all the fears and just know that it's your journey, it's your life. If you're going to get yourself to be bankrupt at 22, then that's what you're going to have to go through. But I also trust that you're mindful enough and aware enough to have the learning lesson from whatever hole that you dig yourself into. And know that I'm going to be there to support you, but not bail you out either. Like I don't, you already know better to come in and go, hey, I need, $1,000. I need you to bail me out. And I know you would probably wait to the very end if that's what you needed. And then I know you would expect me to negotiate something with you that you're doing 90% of the work and then I'm doing 15 or 20% of the work, because I'm not an enabler. I'm not going to come in and just save you like that. We'd have to work something out where you're doing most of the work, doing most of the cleanup. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and if for kids especially, or young adults, if you want to, I guess, take a stand or separate yourself from your parents and everything, you kind of have to also realize that it's going to come with consequences. All of a sudden, mom and dad can't wire you money anymore, or you can't ask, or at least I found for me that if I was going to do that and I was going to, act all big and bad, that I couldn't ask for any money. I couldn't ask for gas money anymore. And I couldn't. So it came with a lot of stuff. One, because of my pride.
But kind of some good stuff, because it was almost like, all right, wow, now I unlinked it. And because I want to, flap my wings and find my own personal power and take my own independence and all that. There's now, it's like, okay, you want to do that. Now you're going to kind of have to step up and kind of step up to a bigger game too.
Yeah, and as the parent too, you kind of have to be supportive of that in its own, but also, like you said, not bail them out. So if they do want to separate themselves and then they come asking you for money or whatever that looks like, you kind of have to be strong and say no, because that's really what we need. Because I went through a lot of that too, where I got a lot of no's, and now I don't even ask until it's my very last resource, because I know that, one, I can do it, I can figure it out, and two, that you're probably going to say no.
You know what's funny is that, like, I just did a parent training about 2 months ago, and I was actually telling the parents right in the middle of the training, I was because we're doing Q&A, and one of the parents asked me about enabling, and I told them from my own personal experience, when I was younger, I saw my mom enable my two sisters, and it flipped a switch inside of me, and I told myself, I'm never going to enable my kids. So what I did was I comprised a rule for giving and what's called support. So what I did was I created, out of every 5 requests, I'm going to say no to 3.5, and I'm going to say yes to 1.5. So that's kind of the numeral, equation that I've set up, so that I don't ever become that parent that is saying 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5 yeses, and then one day I'm shocked or surprised that you're still draining me, and that you still haven't figured out how to be disciplined and to have, your own ability to navigate your own life without mommy or daddy coming to the rescue. So I learned that earlier on, and I had to force myself to say no. So when you sit here on the mic and you say, when I was younger, you used to say no to me, I need you to know that I had to force myself to say no to you. And it killed me inside. And I know parents that are listening right now, they're like, oh my God, if I could just force myself to say no. Because I think it's a natural instinct for parents, because we love you guys so much. We want to give you the world. But giving you the world doesn't set you up to be independent. It doesn't set you up to learn grit and to develop that drive to persevere and to think outside the box and to, go around problems and find solutions. It takes away that drive. And I had to force myself. So when you say that when you were growing up, we said no, I said no a lot of the times because I had to force myself, so that you had that learning lesson.
I really want to get back to this topic and say some of my thoughts on it, but we had to
I don't know how we went from New Year's Eve commitments to, but that's how the show goes sometimes.
We had to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.